Today I want to show you how to reseal hydraulic pump number 3 on a Kubota L48. This is the hydraulic pump that lives over here on the right side of the engine, and this one is responsible for nothing but the swing function on the backhoe. The reason I am digging into this is because this tractor was purchased without a backhoe. It's lived for 22 years with no backhoe, and if you know anything about this BT 1100, this thing right here, it is so hard to find one just by itself, just sitting somewhere for sale. But we did finally find one, and we brought it home. We did some repairs on it, hooked it up, started using it, and probably within an hour or maybe less, this pump started leaking from everywhere possible. So this machine's got a little over 800 hours on it, and it's just been running with no load on this pump because there's never been a backhoe. And now we added a backhoe, and all the seals are blowing out because they're old and they've never been stressed. So this all started with the outlet fitting right here. There's an O-ring under this connection. That one started leaking first. Went ahead and replaced it. Then after that, the suction side, same setup, same O-ring, also started leaking, so I replaced it. Then the pump stopped working altogether, and it started leaking from these two joints here, where this cap meets the main body and where the main body meets the flange. And like I said, the pump's just not working anymore. I think it's sucking air. It may be bypassing internally. So we're going to remove this entire pump from the tractor and reseal it. And I found no information about this online, so I wanted to make a video on it so that anyone else that ends up in my situation has something to refer to. So here we go. And just in case you were curious what's going on back here, just installed a thumb from a company called Linville Industries. They're up in Ohio, and they had the best price on a mechanical weld-on thumb that I could find anywhere. So this is the mount bracket for it. Got it welded on this morning, getting it painted up right now, and I'll have to show you how that works later on too. Alright, the first thing we're going to have to get after are these fuel filter mounting bolts. There's two back here, 11 millimeter. Now with that out of the way, we're going to try to just simply reposition this filter housing. You have to move this little hose here that has the coil metal over it. I'm going to try to just simply work around it there, just pushed out of the way. You got this vent hose that runs up. It gives you a little bit of slack to pull it down, and we'll try to work with it like that. Next, you're going to be looking at your inlet and outlet fittings. These are 10 millimeter bolts. Powered ratchet will make your life a heck of a lot easier here. Underneath here is going to be your O-ring, so just want to use care to make sure it doesn't fall out, or you may just want to go ahead and just remove it so you know you got it. The kit does not include a new one. I'm just going to pop mine out, set it aside. And then here goes your 4 lower suction pipe bolts. It's going to be easier to get the couple that's closest to you out of the way first, and then you can get back there to those other two and work on those easily. especially if you're using a ratchet and wrench. Now if you're using a ratchet, you might be okay. But with a ratchet wrench, this is the way to go. And these bolts are longer than the 3 you removed on the top, so you want to make sure you keep them separate. That very back one hits the hydraulic line, so you won't be able to fully remove it just yet. We'll get that in just a second. Once again, you got an O-ring here that will not get replaced in the kit. This one is stuck to the pump case. You gotta watch them. And the O-rings for the top and bottom connections are identical, so you don't have to worry about separating those. Alright, next you're looking at your 4 pump mounting bolts, and then this pump is going to come out of here. So you got 2 that are going to be easy to see, and then 2 more on the back, and these are again 11 millimeter. That back one is not fun, but it's out. So what I'm looking at here, there's something attached to the shaft right there that will not come out through that opening. Okay, so apparently I wasn't prying just right, and as soon as I did, it popped right on off of there. So there's your pump. Okay, I did some further inspection, and I'm glad I did. I went ahead and removed this piece here. This is where your pump flange mounts to. Looks like you have like some sort of a bearing type deal that presses in right there. Mine's trying to pop out, so I'm gonna have to try to put that back. Maybe that's what's supposed to come out, but it did not come out for me. So actually back in here is the gear that your pump gets driven off of, and a snap ring. And luckily my pry bar just popped that snap ring off and didn't break any teeth on the shaft or anything. But that's just 3 more 11 millimeter bolts right there. If I were to do this again, I think I would just try to get those 3 in the first place instead of trying to get at these 4, which it looks like would be possible. So just take note of that. I'm glad we took it apart, because that would have been quite a mess putting it back together and starting it back up without reassembling that. Okay, so I figured out what's supposed to happen here. This ring here is what stopped this gear from coming out and made us have to pull this entire housing. This is held in by nothing but a friction fit with an O-ring. You're probably going to have this same issue as these machines age, just like this one, but this is held in by nothing but an O-ring. I was able to walk it out, tapping it from the back side with a screwdriver and, you know, just gently working it out. So I think what is supposed to happen, you got this O-ring here, which I wish I had a replacement for, but there's that. It sits right around that on the flange, and then your shaft would come through and your gear sits right there. I think all of that is supposed to come out of here as an assembly. That just did not happen because it was a little bit seized. But at least you have that better understanding. You may still wind up in the same boat as me and have to pull this whole thing, and if you do, that's okay. But the goal of this video is to give you the information behind problems just like that. Stuff you're not going to find anywhere else. First off, there's your seal kit from Kubota for this pump. That's the number you're going to need right there. Alright, to get this pump apart, we got 6 bolts here on the cap, 6 millimeter Allen, and we'll pop those out. before you take this apart, you want to put parting marks on these halves. Okay. Yep, that'll probably do it. So there's your cap plate right there. These seals are really dry and worn. Wow, look at that. So there's your main, if you can even see that, your rubber seal element. And then this is what's left of my backup element. Looks like it's just deteriorated, halfway melted. It's in really rough shape, I'll tell you that. Then you have your outer O-ring that goes around and actually seals the case. And let's see. Yeah, this one is just like all the other O-rings I've pulled off this pump, and in that at least one edge, in this case both edges, are completely flattened. This thing's no longer round, and once you put significant pressure behind that, it just does not hold. Okay, now we need to take some snap rings off. There's one here that sat behind that gear. There's two different grooves, so just take note of which groove that's in. We'll pull that off. And then inside of here, we might as well go ahead and get this one. But it's an internal, so I gotta flip my tool around here. Got one bigger snap ring down inside there that sits on top of that lip seal. Now we should be able to push this shaft out, and you'll see all of your internals kind of just start popping out of there. Okay, I rotated a little bit and out they come. You got your two bushings there. There's a key between the two, so you got to watch that. That thing is stuck on there. And seal's in the same condition. This thing is put together with really tight tolerances, and it doesn't like to be disassembled. There's your other O-ring, also flattened. You got a couple of dowel pins in there. And then again, you got this seal element and backup element, just like the seal element looks okay. It's a little flattened out, but the backup element is just completely gone. Then on the back side, you got this lip seal. It's also deteriorated. Flicks out real easy with a flat head. We're going to give all this stuff a little rinse and brake clean, and then obviously re-lube it before it goes back together, and put in some new seals. Alright, I sprayed everything down in brake cleaner. While it sits over there drying, we'll take a look at this seal kit. So here's what you got. You got your two O-rings for your very outer ends of the case. They're the same. They don't look like that coming out. They look like this when you take them out, because they've been in there for 22 years. But this is what those are. And these are your backup elements that I was talking about that were just completely gone out of my pump. Your two rubber seal elements and your lip seal that goes in that very end where the shaft comes through the flange. For comparison, that's the remains of what I had. And that's what it's supposed to be. So I definitely think we probably had some internal bypass here, and the pump was probably pulling in air too, because the gears all look good. The housing, I think, looks good. All the gear teeth look fine. There's no cavitation damage on those. So this should just be a reseal and go. And in case you do have the micrometers and all that fancy stuff and you need to check the specs of your pump, here's what the workshop manual says about that. Alright, we're ready to go back together with this thing. We got some clean UDT2. And we're going to start off with the lip seal here in the end of the flange. So that spring side goes towards the pump. And then I got myself a socket to get this thing in. A 7/8 is what fit perfect for me. You want one that fits tightly around the outside there. And I mean, it's almost meant to be in that bore. So I'm just going to drop the entire seal into the UDT, and we'll see. Get it started in there with your hand, and then we'll take this socket, just give it a little tap. Let it go down till it stops. And you can almost see through the inside. I know y'all probably can't see it, but you can take a look through there and see that it's bottomed out. Alright, now we're going to put this pump back together. So, look at your dowel pins, look at your cover plate, your flange there. You'll see which way this goes. So your drive shaft needs to be on the right side of that pump. So get these coated up in UDT. The two ends, they both have those little marks on them. Hopefully you can see that. The other end doesn't have that. So put them as such. If you marked the way the teeth were meshed together before you disassembled it, then go back with that configuration. I didn't, so we're just going to put it back in however it wants to go. Now you got your bushings. We're also coating those in UDT and making sure that the little steel key is in the groove in between the two. Okay, once again, we're going to look at the orientation of this plate and make sure we're putting this the right way. You can see the outline of where the seals used to be there. Just to double check. And then that just sits down in there. Little tight fit. Press it in and you're good to go. Now we're ready for a seal element. The seal element has a little groove on the inside edge of it. You want to make sure that groove is facing up so that you can put your backup element into it. And then stick that in the groove. Backup element goes right in that groove we just talked about. Take your time, make sure this thing sits in here right so that we don't have to do this again. Okay, now we're ready for this. New O-ring in there, coated in some UDT. Again, watch those dowel pins. If you put your shaft on the right side, you can't mess it up. And we'll carefully slip that over the new lip seal. Get it lined in there. And there it is. And we'll put that snap ring back in there. I'm just going to take a pick and run around. Make sure that snap ring gets in the groove. Alright, that side of the pump is done. Now we're looking at the exact same thing on the other side. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to look at these parting marks that we made. This is why these are important. And then I'm going to look at the indentation of the seals on there, and we can see the orientation that this needs to go in. So no debris down in there, we're making sure. And then we're dropping this bearing in the same way it came out. And over here we're looking at the same story with the seal element and the backup. Make sure they sit down in there all the way. Alright, the battery died on me on the camera. Let's get back at it here. So we got our seal element and the backup element installed there on the bearing. And what we're about to do now is put the O-ring in the case end here. Throw this thing together. So we'll coat that in some UDT. And then fit it in the groove there. Make sure it's going to stay. Then we'll take a look at the parting mark that we made. Right there, right there. Line that up and we are ready to start some bolts back in here. And these will go all the way through to that flange on the other side. I'm just putting them all in loosely until we get them all started. And for whatever reason, Kubota has not provided us with a torque spec on this or torque sequence. So we're just going to do a cross pattern and snug them up. This is going into aluminum, so it does not need to be too tight or else you're going to have a bad day. Okay. I'm just going to get them snug. I am not going to go crazy on them or anything. It feels like they're already pretty much there. At least most of them. Okay. Pump's all put together. We got a couple more things to put on back here and we will be ready to put this thing on the machine. Alright, so remember the snap ring that sits down below the gear? We'll put that on. Take note of which groove it went in because it has two grooves on this shaft. Mine's trying to get into both grooves at the same time. There we go. Mine was in the upper groove there. Not sure if that will differ between tractors. Now we're going on with this little ring thing, the piece that got stuck inside of the housing earlier. O-ring goes down towards the pump and it fits snugly around that raised lip there on the pump flange. Now you can put your gear in, and that gear is going in with the raised side down. And last but certainly not least, you got your snap ring. It goes right there on the outside. We'll get that thing in the groove. Alright. Pump spins, new seals. Everything's about as clean as it's gonna be. I'll wipe this thing off a little more and we're gonna go bolt it in the tractor. Before we head over there, we'll put a little UDT around this O-ring on this piece here. And we'll put a little bit on our gear too, why not? Alright, so here's what that housing looks like put back on. Like I said, 3 bolts. Or actually, this one right here is a nut going over a stud. Bolt there. And bolt right there. Just underneath the bolt for your pump flange. Make sure these are clean and free of debris. And we'll throw this pump back in. We got our O-ring oiled up there. We may have to do a little bit of rotating with this gear to get it to mesh up with the gear inside of there. We'll see here. Yeah, right now I don't feel like it. Oh, there it goes. Never mind. Went right in. See how that O-ring slipped straight in there? That's how it's supposed to go together. But I guess after it's been there through 1,000,000 heat cycles and 800 hours and 22 years, you don't exactly get that. Looking at it now, it wouldn't be too bad to get that entire casing off if you wanted to do that instead of taking these 4 out on the removal. I think you could. These top 2 would be really easy. The bottom one, it should be accessible. It's literally right next to this one pump bolt that I'm working on right now. It'd just be a little bit difficult to get to. And you wouldn't be able to see it at all. You'd be going by feel. So we'll just start by torquing this one since we're already here. Kubota did provide us a torque spec of this on this one, which is approximately 20 foot-pounds. Personally, I'm just snugging them, and we'll do those in a cross pattern too, as you see. Now we're going to do the O-rings on the inlet and the outlet. Like I said, these are not in the kit. If you need new ones, which you probably will unless you replaced them recently, you will have to source these separately. We'll set that O-ring in there. Now I'm going to have to grab me a bolt. For some reason this line here never wants to line up, at least on my tractor. So you do have to kind of pull the line into position to get the bolt started. And I prefer to just work on these with a ratchet wrench. That way I know I'm not really risking breaking anything unless I do something crazy. Because again, for one thing, it's a small diameter bolt, and you're also going into aluminum, so you don't need to go crazy on these. You're just compressing the O-ring and just get it snug enough that it won't come back loose. Alright, we're back down here working on the inlet line again. Got our O-ring, a little bit of oil on it. Get it in the groove. The groove is on the fitting there. And we'll work this very far back bolt in first, since it's going to be the most difficult to work with. And these, because of the space limitation, the ratchet wrench really is the best option. Generally, when you have multiple bolts on one piece, you want to get them all started before you go tightening anything. But you kind of have to go ahead and get this one tight, because once those other four go on, you don't have any room to get in there and swing your wrench. But this is my second time doing this, and I've had luck just doing that way. There we go. Now we'll lift our fuel filter housing back up in place. It goes over top of the gray bracket. And we'll drop those two 11mm bolts down in there. Once I get this hose out of the way that's messing me up. We'll route this hose right here back where it goes. There's no real clamps just holding it. It just sits kind of as such. And we should be done. Let's fire this thing up, see what it does. Start it up at idle. Let that fluid circulate a little bit. Don't see any leaks. Let's see if we get anything out of this swing. I've got the safety pin in it right now. There we go. Bam. So, for reference, before we did this repair, the pump wouldn't work at all at idle. It kind of slowly died over time. At first it worked just like this at idle, worked fine when we first hooked it up. Then we got out and did some testing with it, you know, did a little work. And it got to the point where it was getting really sluggish at idle, and you would have to rev it up and then it would work. And then it got to the point where it wouldn't work at any RPM, and it started leaking out of the case. But as you can see, looks like we're good to go. So That is how you reseal the swing pump on a Kubota L48. I hope this video was helpful to you. I know it wasn't perfect. I know we had some learning experiences together, but that's what it's all about. There's no other videos about this out there, and I feel like there needed to be one, because not everybody's a hydraulic professional. All right, stay tuned. I may have to do myself a little review on that Linville thumb. That mount bracket came out nice. I'm really excited for that. I'll give you a little look at the thumb itself. There's the company. They sell on eBay or they have their own online store. And this is just a 27-inch slim manual thumb. Should be all we need for all we're going to do with this tractor. Alrighty, catch you later.